So I'm going to talk about something we've been working on for the last few years. And it's not exactly a full academic conference, or a conference talk or workshop talk. It's a bit of a sales pitch on here, and there's a story behind that. And I'm going to give you the story. So I'm starting with my University of Liverpool slide here, and here's how you can get in touch with me, email address. So this is on Flowonthego. It's on behalf of me and Andy Plater, and I'll explain why his involvement as we get into the talk. Okay, so who am I? Well, a bit of a fraud in this field, I often feel. I'm a lecturer in contemporary and dynamic processes at the University of Liverpool. But previously, I'm an engineer, and I've worked for the Department of Energy, burning lots of coal and working out some tracking technology. So basically, my history goes from civil engineering to fluid mechanics to chemical engineering, and now in geography. So I've got a bit of a varied background. And I'm currently working on understanding real-world fluid mechanics. That's kind of what I do. And this kind of leads in quite nicely to our app. So I'm going to give you a story of how we've actually got there and where we've come from. So I'll start with, this is your life of Flowonthego. So as I mentioned, this is where I used to work. This is part of the Department of Energy, and we're burning lots of gas particles, lots of coal particles, or maybe idealized as glass particles that look a little bit like this. And these are notoriously difficult to track. Even things like this are notoriously difficult to track. So anyway, I spent some time and I went and got the textbooks out from the 70s and looked at the optical flow equations, and I came up with this. And this was our first piece of software. It's on the MATLAB website. It's not very good. It's full of bugs, but basically it meant that we can track these flows. It's all there. And fast forward, you can see these nice lines here, and we can do all sorts of cool things with this. And it's all based on some solutions that I've come up with loosely based on the Lucas-Kanade method of the optical flow equations. And it's really powerful stuff. So this was a piece of software which has kind of died, I guess. But then I moved to Liverpool, and then this is Andy Plater, whose office is across from mine. He was the head of department at the time, and he works in all sorts, in oceanography, rivers, geomorphology. And he said to me, why don't you try giving it a go on a river? So we did, and it kind of worked really well. So fast forward a little bit, and we put a grant application in, and we got this, which was our, so I've just noticed that's covering everything up, and it's really annoying. Which is our Flowonthego app. This was our original grant application. Can we get these equations actually onto a smartphone? So this is where we came up with our Flowonthego app. I'm just going to try and get rid of this anyway. So our Flowonthego tracker, and this was Flow Tracker. We had to change the name due to a few legal problems with similar names, and this led to Flowonthego. So this is where my sales pitch starts with Flowonthego. Is basically we are now beginning to start a spin-out business from the university. We've got our right to go. We've got some funding, and I'm going to show you what we've managed to do with the bit of funding we've had already. So I'm just going to hide this while my computer goes mad. Okay. So why are we doing this? Well, we know climate change is happening. We've seen this from the IPCC report, and it creates things like this. It creates things like this, and it even makes these things a little bit more difficult to navigate. So what do we often need? Well, to have more accurate models, we need more data. So this is our solution to this, and this is our Flowonthego app. And it looks, so as I said, we've got other techniques like this. We've got satellite techniques, but we're planning on making the market available to all by having it possible to track things on your smartphone. And this is what we've got. Okay, so I guess that's the end of my sales pitch, but I'll actually lead into another question, and how this is the question that we're all probably interested in. How good is it? Well, we've had a few problems with getting field data recently, and it's not been as easy as we all know with this virus. However, we've done some benchmark tests, and I've started with a really simple benchmark. So I wanted to see, just generate a few bits of seeding how good this actually is. So this is just a MATLAB thing that I've knocked up, and basically we can begin to apply the tracking algorithm. So we stick it onto the phone, and this is all in real time. It tracks these, and it means, because I know all these points, I've got a good way of actually validating how good the accuracy is of it. So take a look at it, and we'll see, well, our average benchmark is on the right, is on the left, sorry. As we move into the center, we've got our Flowonthego, which is looking very, very similar. And then we've compared this to the standard PIV. This was Open PIV, which I've used. And as we can see, Flowonthego is doing pretty well. And this is all based on a smartphone. And this is all based on the tracking algorithm, which is just the solution, simplified solution to the Lucas-Kanade method, which solves the optical flow equations. So that's all right. We can look at a cross-sectional average. And if we see that Flowonthego pretty much is spot on compared with the benchmark, PIV is doing not a great job. But there's a reason for that, which we've published in our paper recently. So likewise, if we look on our V profile, our other cross-sectional profile, again, Flowonthego is doing a much better job than what we can see from the standard PIV codes. If we look at our distributions of velocities, so if I take all the velocity measurements from all the points and compare them with the real one, basically we've got spot on with what the benchmark is, and PIV doesn't seem to be doing a great job. So, okay, that's probably was well kind of fitted to this kind of method. So maybe we try a different method. So maybe we look at the PIV challenge data set. So this is from the JSPS data set. And this is some idealized lab experiments, which is well used to test your PIV codes. So unfortunately, we don't have the solutions to this, but these are all well published and well used, and people have a really good idea of what some of the results should look like. So again, this is in real time on the smartphone, and as you can see, we can actually do some quite cool stuff with this. We can see this advection of that vortex there, or eddy, and we can really see some cool stuff. We can see the recirculation zone forming, all done in real time on the smartphone. So again, looking at the averages, so here I'm just comparing the Flowonthego averages to the PIV average. And as we can see, we have a few more outliers in PIV. We don't know the real answer, but we can kind of see that we're getting a comparable result. If not, we can maybe pick out a few extra flow structures with the Flowonthego app itself. So this is something we have published with. We've published in a number of fields, granular flows, and most recently our paper in physics of fluids is using the exact same technique as well. So distribution of velocities there, again, we see they match quite well, as you'd expect. And our disparity, so here I'm plotting the U and V components against each other, and we can see they kind of fit pretty well. A few outliers out there, but on the whole, all our average results look pretty good. So back to this picture, and I know this is going to be the wrong video, but the other one corrupted. So ADV data, ADCP data, how can we actually use this data? So this is from Mark Randall, and he provided me these data sets. I should have actually maybe sent some more information that this isn't published yet. So this is an ADCP, which is measuring. And as we can see, slightly different setup here. And we can again track the flows with our app. And as you can see, it's doing a pretty good job. We can see the profiles, we can see the fast moving zones, the slow moving zones. And then if we start to average this, again, we could look against PIV. You can see we've got a higher fidelity with the Flowonthego app in both the span-wise and the stream-wise directions. So it's looking pretty good. We can then have a look at the results compared to the ADCP data. Okay, they don't look great, but of course, as we know, ADCPs aren't all measuring exactly the same thing as what we're seeing in that video. So we might have had some slightly different flow conditions. However, what I can see is of a similar magnitude. So I'm pretty happy with these results, and they match quite well with what we're seeing from PIV. So this is where I'm going to step into a demo of it. And this is probably the most scary part of what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to show you the app as it's working. So let's fingers crossed this is going to work. Okay, so this should be it working. This is the Flowonthego app, and I'll show you where you can get it from in a little bit. So we open up the app, and we can see here we've got the app as a splash screen, And I'm going to load in some data that I know is definitely going to work. So this is the beta version. We're very close to getting this on the app stores, and you can download a copy of it from our website. So let's maybe try the video that we had previously, and we can process. And as you can see, we can begin to process this. This is in real time. This is my phone. Okay, it's one of the smarter Apple devices, but this will work on other devices too. You can also see that we've put some reference points in here. We can put these reference distances. We can actually have 4 points to warp out the aspect ratio of the camera, and we can put our distances here. We've got some other features in here where we can mask things out. I know we saw a mask earlier. We can do exactly the same thing, and we can do this with our finger, as you can see me drawing on there, and we can also put some squares in. We can trim the video down if we're interested in just a small part of the video. Maybe we can process just this like that, or maybe we can even stabilize this video. If you've not got a shaky hand, or the video wants a little bit to be a little bit sharper, we can do all that as well. So if we now go back to the processing, as you can see, we get some great pictures there, and we can actually begin to post-process this. So we've got an average U velocity, an average V velocity, an average speed. And also, this is a new feature. Maybe we want to turn this data into quasi-PIV data. Well, actually, we can play back the PIV data. So this has taken the PIV style data, so our gridded data. This has taken quite a bit of coding to get this right. Our developers have been working on it quite a bit. Likewise, someone mentioned earlier about coastal regions. We've also got a Fourier power spectrum built in there. Of course, we're not seeing anything on here, but if you are to point it at waves, you can actually see the spec come out, and we can start to resolve these things. So, and of course, you can export this. You can export this to a CSV or an Excel file or a video, put it on your social media. As I know Nick's done previously before, and you can actually then go and play with the data at your leisure. You can put that onto the app, and we're just working on now on the web-based API. So that means that you can directly communicate your phone with a web browser, which will be able to do all this processing and more, and you'll be able to download it into all the Python and different files that you might want to find. So, and there's a bonus feature as well. If you do want to use this in the lab, you're actually going to see my knee in a second, so I'll aim away into the computer, my filthy computer. We've also got our checkerboard built in here, which we can use for calibrating the flow. So what's really interesting about this, which I have completely forgotten to mention, is we're actually also bumped into the AI engine on the phone. So if you've got one of the later smartphones, you actually don't even need to calibrate the flow. And this is something we've managed to prove in the water flumes at Liverpool, at the University of Liverpool in the hydrodynamics lab. And you can actually just get your phone out, point and shoot, and the AR augmented reality in there does all the calibration for you. So I'll stop sharing that, and I'll go back to my slides. So basically, that's it. Next question was more than likely be, how do we get it? So you can get it quite easily if you go on the Flowonthego website. It's based for Android and iOS. You can download the beta versions from there. You will need to sign up, but that's down to a few privacy issues. And yeah, that's basically it. So here's the website. There's plenty more to come. We've got some additional funding now to make the API that connects it all to the web browser. And it's quite exciting, I think, over the next 12 months. So what next? Well, as we're saying, we've got the API, and I'll leave it there as Flowonthego. So is there any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Johnny. Can you post a link into the chat at some point? Maybe not right now, because we'll give you a question or two. But yeah, thanks. Really exciting. I've had a play with it, and I think it's a really exciting tool that has a lot of potential. Questions? Well, Alex Owett has asked a question around ortho rectification, which I think you kind of explained. But if I could take that and say, how well does it do that? How well does it actually use the phone's onboard capability to scale stuff?
So yeah, it's a great question, and the AR is limited. It kind of works close up, but it gets worse as you get further away. And likewise, we've got the new iPhone here, iPhone 12, because we heard it had a LiDAR sensor on it, which was quite cool, but that realistically only works about 3 to 5 meters. So it kind of gives us a good idea. But I think what's kind of cool with it is, at least if it puts us in the ballpark figure, is if you're walking around with your smartphone and you can get a measurement, that's a measurement that nobody's got. And even if within an okay, acceptable range, you've still got some information that someone else wouldn't have previously. You might just see the river profile, you might see the shape, again, is really great teaching, is you can show these things to students quite quickly, get the phones out. They've all got decent smartphones, a lot better than mine, and they can usually just go and they can track flows in the field.
Cool. Okay. And are there any other questions? Oh, Todd Cowan. How does it compare to other techniques on turbulence metrics?
On turbulence metrics, to be honest, I've not really played with it on turbulence metrics. I guess that's something we'll explore. I've just physically not had the time to be able to write the paper on it. Got a group paper coming out soon, which it will be put in there, but I've not explored it, if I'm honest. But to say, we've used it to calculate granular flows. We've got a paper in Physical Review E using this technique, which is looking at the transient paths from it. And also we've just published in Physics of Fluids with the same thing as well. So it's pretty good.
Okay. And we also have a point from Liz Jameson that I think is worth just sharing with everybody, really. It sort of relates to some of what you've done here, Johnny, but also probably to pretty much everyone on this meeting, really, around access to sort of libraries of field data sets. And partly I raise it because I have a feeling that Annette had done something on this. Annette, are you still here? You know, really sort of a place we can all go to access videos that we can process, but we know other people have already processed or have already got validation results from, to see how well the tools we're developing are working. Was that the right theme, Liz? Now that I can see you. Yeah, Annette, are you still here?
And also maybe just combining those people who have already done the field work, because COVID has slowed things down, right? So people are developing rapidly new technology and new methods and wanting to just like burn through as much physical, you know, hard to gather field data. But we should be collaborating on that and not working independently to try to scrape that together. So something for the community to think about, maybe to do better. And I posted the title of one paper that, you know, sort of got that going, and I think there's still more to do.